Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko Tamurian and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
They're all big fans of Sammy Hagar, who said he couldn't drive 55, but here we are in episode 55.
Well played.
Yes.
But you can drive 55 pretty much anywhere now.
Yeah, that song was dated. That was back when you had to slow down.
Yeah. But it's a good song.
Yeah, we're not slowing down.
No, you know what? I mean, what are we going to say when we get to 110? You can't drive 110.
You can drive 110, but you may end up in the clink.
I think you will. How are you, man?
Good. Wacky week. Lots of stuff going on.
Lots of stuff
off the field, off the ice, off the court, off the field of play, including, I think, everybody's kind of watching right now what's going on with the Pac-12.
Right.
And whether the Pac-12 is going to expand. There's lots of people bubbling up that, hey, there's going to be some news on that in the short term here before the end of the month. Perhaps a Texas State joining the likes of Washington State and Oregon State. As we sit here and record this right now, no news, though.
Right, and I understand the logic of a Texas State. I don't think that it's a big needle mover. It's like you're drafting on potential.
Yes.
But how much potential is there? I don't know. But you got to get one more football playing school at least. And it seems like the momentum that we heard from maybe like the last couple of years when folks were talking about Memphis, the South Floridas, which would have been a little bit crazier for the Pac-12 or Pac-10, whatever you want to call it. But so let's see what happens and let's get this league off and running. I think it's going to be it's kind of like the best of the Mountain West plus the Cougs and Beavs. Like, that's a good league.
It's the All-State.
Yeah, I like that. See
if they wanted to go and get, say, a sponsor to rename the conference, they could go to a certain insurance company.
Well, that's probably a good plan. Like, they need money.
Yeah. The All-State.
You should get a commission on that.
Yes. So if that does happen, remember, you heard it here first on Inside the Arena.
Teresa Gold, give Chris his commission.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're going to talk about what is also happening that a lot of people are watching, and that is the FIFA Club World Cup in Seattle as we speak.
Yeah. I sat down with Sounders general manager, chief soccer officer, Craig Waibel. We love Craig, right? Great personality, great dude. And it was a really cool conversation because, yes, we're talking FIFA Club World Cup. And yes, there's the understanding that, listen, the Sounders aren't winning this thing, right? I mean, if they could get a win, that was the hope, right? And played well enough to do so against Botafogo. It just missed a lot of opportunities in that match. And they would be the first to tell you that. But it's a lot bigger than just the match results. As much as we want them to be positive, it's about this first iteration of the Club World Cup being here. It's about the kickoff to what's really a year plus of amazing soccer, not just here in Seattle, although that's what we're really most excited about locally, but across the country. So we're talking about that. Could we see an impact much like we did after the 94 World Cup was here, right? Like, soccer took off then.
Yeah.
Gianni Infantino actually said in an interview the other day, he said that, we want soccer, as it already is the top sport in the world globally. We want to be the top sport in America too, along with American football and basketball and that sort of thing. So he didn't mention baseball, but anyway, I thought that was an interesting thing. That's the goal. I mean, will it ever happen? I mean, in this moment, it doesn't feel like it, but you never know. Like, if next year's World Cup has a similar impact to 94 and what it did for the youth game, I mean, it's immeasurable what that did 30 plus years ago.
So that is coming up a little bit later. I got something to say on the FIFA Club World Cup too, as we go around the horn. Four corners. It's something we like to do every week. What's good? What's bad? Off the ice, off the court, off the field of play. What's good?
Yeah. So UW Athletic Director Pat Chun holding a press conference talking about the House versus the NCAA, the new NIL, as we talked about on last week's show, with $20.5 million as a salary cap that you spread among all schools. And it's not perfect. Like, we talked about a school like Gonzaga could maybe spend $18 million on basketball, and they're already a national power, but maybe cement that even further. But what was positive about this, why it's my four corners, one thing that Pat Chun said, one thing that he was really adamant about, because he's on the national committee.
Yeah.
He testified before Congress. He's, we could peel the layers of this all day. But the thing that's my positive on this, he said he's hoping by July 1, and it may not happen that way, that they really want to figure out the calendar. He was really adamant about figuring out the college football calendar so that fellow Cougs like yourself don't see your quarterback leave before the bowl game's even played. Now, he didn't say that. The example he used was that Penn State was in the college football playoff and they lost their backup quarterback before the game was even played. Like, he's like, a playoff team is losing a player. And he's like, I'm not blaming the player because he got an opportunity to go start somewhere. But like, and if he says, no, I'm in the playoffs, then they're going to go find somebody else because that's what they have to do. So he's hoping that in the next couple of weeks, whether or not it comes to fruition, he does not know. But there's a big emphasis on fixing the calendar, making it model more like the NFL, because you think about it, then you supplement a free agency after you've done things like the draft, which I guess would be akin to recruiting and things of that sort. So here's hoping, because we've lamented quite often in the show that college football is broken right now. And I think the legislation was a big first step. And I think if they can figure out a calendar, help like really take some of that like sourness off it, then that would be a great thing too.
The transfer window, there's been a couple of windows, and like you said, the Penn State backup quarterback left as they were entering into the college football playoff, which was weird, and there's way too many windows. We're seeing people commit, then decommit, go to another school before they've even taken a class. It's been really weird. I think that there's some level of concern as we now try to figure out what's going on with that House settlement. We just heard in the past week, and this is not me going around all four corners yet, but that Washington State is eliminating the field programs as part of track and field and part of cutbacks. That is a program that has historically done well. That's a bummer because that is the fallout of all of this kind of economic uncertainty with athletic programs at major institutions across the country.
That's why this regulation is needed.
Yeah.
And for that argument, Chun said that same discussion cutting programs is not happening at UW. So that's good news.
Well, there you go. What else is good news? I will tell you, we're finally getting there with Memorial Stadium.
Yeah.
Seattle's Memorial Stadium finally been signed off, all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted with the city of Seattle, the Seattle School District, private financing, the One Roof partnership, and there is going to be a goodbye ceremony for the now 78-year-old building at Seattle Center to make way for a brand new, sparkling $140 million facility that will not only host events for the Seattle School District, but also for potentially some professional teams as well and concerts. That is happening. Mark your calendars for Thursday, the 26th of September. So Thursday, the 26th,
mark
from
it down
4 to 7 o'clock, you will be able to go to Memorial Stadium and sit on that cracked concrete one more time, the chipped paint at Memorial Stadium. Submit your photos to KOMOnews.com. We do have a link for that, and potentially it will be shown on the big screen, but that is going to be the last chance. Instead of an open house, you call it a closing house, where people will be able to take one last loop of Memorial Stadium, and then there will be the demolition, and the new stadium is expected to open in 2027, which is exactly 80 years after the opening of the original stadium on that site.
So cool. And first of all, the most perfect location.
Yeah.
When I would cover high school football games, I'd be like, you're playing right under the Space Needle. Obviously there's not many other programs in the country that could say that, but there's not many other venues that are even remotely close to that, other than some other ones here in our area, Western Washington. But yeah, it's going to be really great to see what that can do and the potential of that facility moving forward.
Well, and then you start, we talked about the Seawolves on this broadcast on Inside the Arena. That will be likely a perfect venue for Major League Rugby in Seattle in a couple of years, and everything that you can do with Seattle Center and the Armory and the neighboring bars and all of that. I think that is going to be to mix metaphors, a home run for a franchise like the Seawolves.
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, that's not a knock on Starfire or anything like that, but you're playing in Seattle Center. There's a certain prestige to that too, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So what don't you like this week?
Chris, sometimes I'm on the show, I'm like, I'm too positive. I can't think of something negative. And there's nothing that's like really like, I'm not ranting today. I'm in a good mood, sort of a good mood.
Yeah.
But, I'd be in a better mood if my kids slept past 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But that's not really four corners inside the arena material now, is it? What I would like to say is, and I've kind of beat this drum on this show before. The Mariners showed us in recent days, and they'll probably already proved me wrong by the time this gets listened to. It's such a roller coaster season. And I understand like it's the immediacy of society and social media and people like wanting everything now, but it's like, okay, the last couple of weeks were like a really bad stretch. Nobody's going to dispute that. But what about the idea that like so many people are like, oh, the season's done, fire this guy, fire that guy, trade this guy? Like, guys, it was like 10 games out of 162. Now, it was a pretty bad 10 games. But as Rick Riz told me, and I think I've said in this show, he said, wake me up on Father's Day and I'll hit the snooze button until All-Star break. And that's when you really have a good indication of if your team's in the hunt. And lo and behold, even despite that really difficult stretch, the Mariners are kind of flirting with the last wild card spot, either in it or out of it by a half game when the series with Boston wrapped up. And so my point is, what's negative? We're all like freaking out too fast.
Yeah.
And it's society in general these days, right? Like we forget things that happened 2 months ago, like they're ancient history, where ancient history used to be years and years in society. So anyway, let's not freak out. If they're 5 games out in September, freak out. Okay. But right now, a half game out. Yeah.
Cal Raleigh leading all catchers in voting in the AL. Who saw this coming? The guy is right there with Aaron Judge.
Crazy.
If you're voting for MVP in the American League, as we sit here right now, it's him and Aaron Judge. Where that team is right now without Cal, I shudder to think
I do
where
too.
they are in the standings. He has been the MVP of that team, and he has been a rallying point. Raleigh being the rallying point.
I like that.
And it's been fun to watch. He's likely going to be the American League starting catcher, which has never happened before for the Mariners. He is far and away the leading vote getter as we sit here today.
Yeah, tripling up Alejandro Kirk at the moment. I love the fact that he gets interviewed after the game by the Root Crew, and they do a nice job, of course. And Cal's just like, I just saw the ball. He's just so humble. But he actually said something in the press conference after the game. We're at the Grand Slam. I was in that press conference room, and he said, the second I look up and I start looking around at like, oh, you've got this number, Johnny Bench is saying this, like all these things. He's like, that's the second that I'll start trailing off because I need to be locked in, focused, stay consistent. And I think that's a great lesson for a lot of people out there. So, it's all good stuff. And it's maybe a negative for Dan Wilson. He's like, I specifically didn't mention Cal broke his Mariners single season stolen base record for a catcher with 8.
And he's been doing it in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah.
His swing is more compact. He's been hitting it high. He's been hitting it low in terms of over the wall. It has not been pitches down the middle of the plate. He had a game with a couple of home runs where I remember the broadcast even saying that's MVP caliber swinging right there.
No question.
Where he's finding the pitches. He's staying humble, and it's been fun to watch. And I think for the Mariners franchise off the field, they're already thinking up every marketing gimmick they can based around Cal Raleigh right now, which is something, 4 or 5 years ago, we're talking about Julio's in the system, Jared Kelnick. You weren't talking about Cal necessarily. Now he is the guy.
Not to spend too much time on it, but we love Cal. We can't get enough Cal. Summer of 22, I did an interview with him, and it was when that year, if you remember, he was demoted to Tacoma. Like he came up in the bigs, he didn't play well. He was demoted to Tacoma. Only reason he got called back up to the Mariners is Tom Murphy, the starter at the time, got injured. Murphy and I grew up in the same area, by the way. Good dude. But I interviewed Cal after that because then he started warming up, and the rest is history. Like by the end of 22, he was already a legend with the home run. And I was just saying, asking him, this idea that you can be sent down, start your year poorly as you did, and then have something like fall into place that you get called back, and then make the most of that opportunity. What does it say? And I remember him saying, he's like, I'll never take it for granted. Like this is gonna, I'm always gonna know what it takes, and always keep that consistency. There's an example for kids out there, and lo and behold, it's been off and running ever since.
And he did it after he signed the contract, which
is great. That's the other thing, right? Like it's not like he's playing to get a payday. He got the payday.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay. So the thing I don't like, and it also leads to our big conversation this week, is the FIFA Club World Cup. I went to the Botafogo game.
You were there as a fan. Okay.
There as a fan, and interesting setup at Lumen Field. All of the ingress egress is different. If people are going to any of these future matches, the turnstiles, the tickets where you're scanning your tickets, it's actually further out. So they've kind of built out a perimeter of the perimeter to handle egress and ingress egress. So that's a little bit different. But the thing that I didn't like is you're walking through and you're like, the team store is closed. Why do they have the team store
I didn't notice
closed?
that. I was in the press box, but I didn't notice the team store.
So the Seahawks/Sounders/Reign team store is closed. And I'm just looking at that going, that's a major financial hit for first and goal, meaning for the franchises that normally are playing there. Instead, you had to find these kiosks, these corners of the stadium to wait in line for a bunch of FIFA Club World Cup gear that half of it was already sold out before the game even started in sizes that you didn't want. I think that's a miss by FIFA, not necessarily by the folks at Lumen in terms of selling the merchandise. The concessions, some of them were closed. FIFA also, I think we've talked about it on this show, the question about ticket sales and how, well, that's gone. With the first Sounders match, 30,000 was the attendance. There was really nobody in the upper deck on one side of the stadium. And I know that if you are a fan of soccer in Seattle, if you are somebody off the field that's trying to recruit future events to Seattle, that was not a good number. You didn't necessarily like seeing a half-empty stadium. We'll see how these other matches go with the Sounders. But FIFA, I hope that they have a better plan for the World Cup than they did for the Club World Cup, because there seems to be some missed opportunities in the stadium.
Yeah, and I think, one thing to your point that would be a concern in that regard is that I think everybody knows that the attendance will be much higher next year. It doesn't matter which countries are playing, even notwithstanding we have a Team USA match. But understand that you're going to have a lot more people that are going to want to buy a lot more merchandise, right? And I suppose it's probably a whole different animal, right? But yeah, we got a year. Hopefully But I'm with you. That's it. Like, that's a missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity. Hey, real quick, Supersonic Minute.
Do it
before we get to the big interview. There is a buzzer. There's an air horn. There we go. Hey, the air horn still works, Bill Fesh. Hey, there's been a slight update here in the world of professional sports franchise valuations. Nico, did you see this?
The Lakers? Yeah.
$10 billion on the valuation. Mark Walter, who, by the way, also owns the Professional Women's Hockey League, the entire league, with the new franchise in Seattle and Vancouver. He's already held a minority share of the Lakers. Right. He's buying now the majority share at a valuation of $10 billion. That's the highest ever for any U.S. North American sports franchise. Jeannie Buss, her family has owned it for over 40 years now. She is still going to be the governor according to the terms of the deal if it's approved, but that just resets the market, and obviously it's going to be a conversation point as we continue to move forward talking about expansion. Yeah,
well, and some fans I think were concerned, Sonics fans that is, like seeing, is this going to delay it? But it seems like this is cut and dry. Like, this isn't like looking for bids like the Celtics was. This seems like it's much more clean, right?
He's already an owner.
Right.
He's buying a larger chunk, but at a higher valuation. We just went to $6 billion on the Celtics, $10 billion now on the Lakers.
Crazy.
It's all a conversation point for expansion.
Yeah, but I don't think it delays it, right? I mean, on the surface anyway.
On the surface, but we saw what the Celtics sale did to expansion.
Well, there you go. The Club World Cup, going back to that.
Yes.
It is a great opportunity.
Yes.
And I think you probably had the same feeling as you were watching. Like, this is a really cool thing. Like, any Sounders fan who had ever wondered, like, where does my team rank against the best? And maybe without even illusions of grandeur or anything like that. Like, just wondering where they stack up. Well, this is a great event for that. But it's also setting the stage, as we talked about, for the future, next year especially. And this could be a launch point for the game in our city. So, Sounders GM, Chief Soccer Officer Craig Waibel, I sit down with him coming up right after this.
Luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Opening this August, wake up to breathtaking Cascade views, enjoy world-class dining, and play your favorite games. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Opening this August, wake up to breathtaking Cascade views, enjoy world-class dining, and play your favorite games. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
All right. Hey, Craig, I mean, your life is in this game. And so to see this event here in Seattle, what's it been like?
It's, obviously the first time anyone's ever seen it. So we got our first taste of it, and it was awesome. I mean, the same stadium, but completely different feel. The game felt different, the environment felt different, and for the most part, our team stepped up to the challenge and put on a really good show. And on a different night, definitely could have come out with the result.
That's just it too. I mean, we were talking about this off camera, right? Like, you can be frustrated by the missed opportunities, but you also look at this like, as you put it to me, everybody in this tournament's really good, and you played well enough to have those opportunities.
Exactly. There's no bad teams in this tournament. That's the point of the tournament. And so, to look back, there is a little bit of that feeling like, oh, you lament the missed chances and maybe the mistakes made on the goals. But in the big picture, we played well enough to get a result. We may have played well enough to even win that game on another night, like I said. So, it's always a glass half full, glass half empty look at these things, especially on the result. But it was a wonderful, wonderful experience, and our fans made it special for us.
Can you take something from that match going into Thursday from the standpoint of you played well enough, that's a top-notch club? I mean, listen, like you said, they're all really good, but the way they rallied, right? The way you guys rallied in the second half. Can you maybe take something from that going into Thursday?
Yeah, I think you can take momentum, you can take confidence, but the way Botafogo plays, the style of soccer in Brazil is different than the style of soccer in Spain, and Atletico is a different animal for sure. I mean, they are consistently competing in Europe for the most difficult trophy to win in club football. So you can take a lot personally. We can take a lot as a club. We can take a lot from our second half. The creation of chances, the effort, the outputs from our guys were just really amazing, and frankly positive outputs. The touches, the combination play, all those things, they just carry confidence into the next game, and you go out, and the whole point of sports is to make sure you play the game. So that's why we still go out and they blow the whistles.
Yeah, absolutely. The atmosphere that we saw Sunday, and certainly we'll see again as this thing goes on here in Seattle. How special is that? And certainly, FIFA's got a million reps here in town. How cool is it for them to see how we support this game?
It's a great little taste for FIFA to come see a little bit of what they're going to see next year, because next summer is going to be enormous with the full World Cup going. But yeah, that atmosphere was unique. We didn't know what to expect. We're showing up to the same stadium we play our home games in, but they were able to make it feel different, and that's credit to FIFA, credit to the presentation, because it did feel a little bit different, and the atmosphere felt different, and the fans clearly had a different energy in that too. So I think it's just a precursor for a really big party next year, but we still have two more games to party, in the next 6 days with our fans. Yeah, we want to get ahead of
that, right?
We don't want to get ahead of those.
But from that standpoint, though, whether it's, obviously Sounders aren't playing that, but some of your guys are, hopefully, and everything. But how much can this experience of the Club World Cup, as big as it is on its own right, really help prepare our city in all aspects for next year?
I think it's great, from a community standpoint. If anyone who goes to these games sees it is different. I mean, the hospitality tents are up, the fencing around the stadium is up. Everything about it is different. The presentation of the city, where I was sitting for the game was around a lot of the people from the group that's helping FIFA locally here with Peter Tomazawa and all of his crew. And so, to hear what they were kind of saying behind in terms of presentation and what they experienced, it's all getting noted, and it'll all get improved upon.
That was my next question. Is it like this one, this is already great and we want it to be as great as it can, but it's almost watching, next year let's try this or that. Is there any of that going on?
Well, I think most of us with our badge, we're thinking we're probably not going to get the same experience next year. We're probably not going to be a part of that as intimately. But in terms of readying the city and exposing what could be improved upon, as well as giving feedback on it, we all want this to be special. We'd like the next 5-6 days to be really special for us, but we obviously care most about the city, and so next summer matters.
Getting back to your team in these next 5-6 days, like you said, it's such a different animal play in these clubs or whatever. But for the guys in there, that's got to be a huge excitement, right? Even if it is some sort of daunting task, they're not looking at it that way, right?
I don't think so. I think if you're an athlete, you already know the odds, all the you might have an idea of what you think you can predict, but the point of sports and the point of the underdog, and that's what we are. But the point of the underdog is to go challenge that method, that theory, that belief, and see if you can't sway it even for just the 2 hours to make believers out of more people than just yourself, because we don't have anyone that doesn't believe we can compete. until somebody shows us we can't. And that didn't get proven the other night. So we're here to throw some punches and do our thing.
All it takes is one, right?
It just takes one.
What was from the team preparation standpoint? Because, I mean, it's not like you had some long break to prepare for this. You were playing just the other night before, right? So what was that, a week before, I should say. So what was that like trying to manage MLS and even before that CONCACAF things that were going on within the season and then all of a sudden have this massive event on your schedule?
Yeah, Open Cup was in there and Leagues Cup to TBD. And, I think the staff was really smart. They took a break after the last MLS game, a few more days than we normally would. And that was just to try and mentally reset, get the group reset so that when they showed back up, we were close enough to the games to treat it differently. But you're right, it is hard to break it up when it's not broken up. There wasn't a 2-week prep for this. There was games, and then into this tournament. And so not lost on the group. Obviously, when you step on the field and you don't see an MLS badge on the other side, it's unique. So that's pretty cool.
That's just it too. I mean, there has to be a buzz about it, right? Like knowing these are the guys that are here in Seattle that they get to play against. I think it was Obed Vargas. It's like, what? Newhood's got to guard Mondelli? Like, he's making a joke about it. But what a cool opportunity too, right?
It's amazing. I mean, if you're a professional soccer player in America, we're so geographically distant from the teams we're playing. I mean, you think Brazil and Spain and France, it is geographically impossible to play these games without it being a one-off event. And so, that opportunity isn't lost when you're a player and certainly not on the staff either. It's really special for all of us.
In the build-up to it, certainly there was conversation. There was back and forth with the players and MLS. I know that was, first of all, how are you trying to navigate that? Now that the games are actually here, is it almost like that is kind of subsided because, okay, it's here, we're focused on soccer? Just take me through your journey in that whole regard.
Yeah, I mean, my role is interesting, right? Because the league is having conversations with the players union, and I'm neither of those things. And so I'm trying to manage the team, and Brian's trying to manage the team, and we don't really know all of those conversations either. So, our goal is to represent ourselves, represent our club, and represent the community as best we can. And frankly, I couldn't have been more proud of the players for the way they came out the other night against Botafogo. And, I think everyone's got a path to walk and things to stand up for. There's no judgment, certainly in this city. We believe in believing in each other. And so I think that's what they did. They believed and still do very, very wholeheartedly in their goals. But in the end, I think they believe that this club and this badge and this community matters the most, and that's what they showed the other night.
And that was my next question. I mean, there was some animosity there. So there's other sports, whatever it might have been, that it may have affected, but it certainly didn't affect these guys. They gave it their all out there. And what does that say about your guys?
It's a high-character club. From top to bottom, it's not just the players, it's the coaching staff, it's the front office, it's all the staff across, from our ticketing to our marketing to our sponsor and the media. It's a high character club, and that's really what the core of our identity is, making sure that at the end of the day, we represent the people that support us and will support the next generation of Sounder employees and players. So I'm really proud of what we've done so far, and I'm looking forward to Thursday and next Monday.
So you mentioned the next generation, because we all remember what '94 in the World Cup in the U.S. did.
Yeah.
And now, not just in this country, but here in Seattle, we have 2 years of wildly prestigious events, right? What can that do? We've already seen the future, like the grassroots stuff you guys have, and homegrown players that have come to play for Sounders proper. So, what can this do for the future of soccer in Seattle?
I think this is going to be one of those really cool things to talk about 5 to 7 years from now. I think if it's anything like the last time, it's exponential growth. And what does exponential growth mean at this point? If we're a league, a domestic league that ranks 9, 10, 11 in the world right now, what does it look like in 3, 4, 5, 7 years? If we see anything like the bump from the '94 experience and the interest and what it generated just across our country and across our culture, I shudder to think where we might be in 5 years. But there's no doubt we're going to be in a better place in 6, 7, 8 years.
That's my thing when it comes to this game. I think that when people maybe aren't familiar with it, when they actually watch it and they understand the rules, oh, this really is a beautiful game. And so I think it's going to be in their face this year and especially next year. So maybe it can help in that regard, right?
There's no doubt. I mean, exposure is everything. We see it every 4 years with the Olympics. Exposure matters. And so all the soccer that's being played right now across the country and all the soccer that's going to be played next year and the spectacle that a World Cup is, it is undoubtedly going to have a positive impact, and undoubtedly, specifically to our city, reward our fan base and the Pacific Northwest with games of the highest level, of the most just amazing impact on not only people as individuals, but people as countries, as nations, and as followers of their teams. It's really hard to wrap our head around because it's the first time we get to do it. It's going to be awesome.
And your club, that crest, is in the middle of it, whether it's host or playing in it this year. Like, wow, right?
One way or another, we're either in the middle of it or right on the edge of it. So,
Craig Waibel, thank you.
No, thanks for having me.
This August, luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. This August, luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
How about it?
I think the fans like what they had to hear.
Well, Craig's a good dude, and this is a really cool opportunity. You and I have been excited about this for so long, not just the Club World Cup, but obviously, back in 22 when we learned about the actual FIFA World Cup coming here too. So, let's just dig in, enjoy it. This is once in a lifetime. It really is. We'll see how PSG goes Monday, but you never know. You never know. I mean, we might know, but we never know.
And the Sounders held their own against Botafogo.
That's what I'm saying. They look like they. I hate using the way should have won because if you should have, then you would have. But they definitely could have won. There's a lot of missed opportunities.
Should have, would have, could have.
I used them all in one.
Should we wrap up the show?
David Lee would have if he could have.
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.